All right, guys, here we go. Day 3 of the disc brake conversion on my 66 C10. As you can tell, there's the new master cylinder in. I went ahead and started routing in the new lines because I wanted to get the 2 lines that go to the proportioning valve in place to kind of see what I have to do if there was any adjustments, and there's some major adjustments I have to make. And I started looking at these lines and I realized they pre-bent these lines for a brake booster master cylinder assembly, because you can see how far forward the lines would be. So if you put a booster behind that master cylinder, then that would push it forward and these lines would fit up perfectly. Now, I showed you on your previous video, this is the rear line that feeds the rear brakes, and that fitting's got to come off because it's just too big for the back of the proportioning valve. Now on this front one here, I'm going to have to cut this. Probably going to straighten it out, find out a good location. I'm probably just going to use this spot because there's a front out here and there's a front out on the bottom right there. See the plug there? You have 2 ways to do this. You can run a single line to your front disc brakes or your front wheels, or you can run an individual line to each individual wheel in the front. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to run one and block off the other. So I'm probably going to use this spot here. So I'll have to straighten this out, mark it with a piece of masking tape to where I want it cut, and then have it 90'd so I can put it right in there. Could probably still reuse this fitting. There's nothing wrong with it. But yeah, this is just excess here. So, and then I'll have to reshape this to where it'll go in here. May not have to do any cutting to the line, other than this fitting's gonna have to be removed so we can put a smaller fitting like this. So that's my dilemma right now. So if you ever get this pre-bent line kit and you're running a brake booster with the non-adjustable proportioning valve, these lines will probably work just fine. Because as you can tell, if you had a booster, like I said, everything's gonna be pushed forward, so these lines would fit in there perfectly. Everything on the bottom fit perfect. I didn't really have to do any bending other than just a slight little massage here or there, and it worked out perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and adjust these lines, and then I'm gonna get them fixed at a local hose shop, and we'll go from there. All right, so I'm back from the hose shop. Got my lines redone. These are the ends that got replaced. I've already test fitted on the truck. I had to do some more bending and adjustments. So now I think they're ready to be installed to the truck, and so let's go do that. All right, so there they are. Got the front lines in. They've been modified to fit this setup here. I had to have this bent twice and cut back to fit in there. Obviously I had to change the fitting out because I showed you on that last video that fitting is too big for this proportioning valve. There is 2 options for a front out. There's one right here. There's a little brass plug under there. I don't know if you can see that. And then obviously right here, there's 2 ways, according to the instructions, you can run an individual front line to each wheel, or you can just block off one and run this to feed both front wheels. Obviously I'm gonna do it that way because I really don't know the benefits of having 2 lines or 1 line going to each individual wheel. So this is the rear and this is the front. I am gonna try to make a clamp of some sort, kind of pull that up against the frame a little bit better. So I may still have to do a little bit tweaking here and there, but my 3-speed on the column, shifter arms do not come in contact with this. Steering's not touching, but I do need to secure that a little bit better. But for now, they're installed. All right, so now we're under the truck. there's the two lines coming from the proportioning valve. This one goes to the front, and you use that T-fitting that comes in the kit. So this, from the proportioning valve, this goes to the passenger wheel, and then this line right here will connect right there, and that goes to the driver wheel. So, and then this line here, I don't know if you can see that, that's the other, that comes in the kit as well, that junction there, or coupler, or whatever you want to call it, and that connects to your rear line. And over here, this is how I got the brake lines clamped. I could these are the clamps that come off of it, the original ones. It's really only big enough to clamp one line, so I didn't want to try to modify this to clamp two lines and then it not work very well. So what you could do, I'm assuming, is the 71 and 72 C10s are pretty much the same K-member and frame, and maybe 73 and up as well. You could probably use the clips for those trucks since they were factory disc brakes. So I had these in my garage, so I did them on both ends. And then over here, to move the light a little bit, remember that little reducer I showed you earlier in the kit on the last video? That connects, I guess that's to step down the main line that goes to the rear wheels. So use that, and then it gives you the junction there for that. So that's the rear line. So all that's connected, tight, and ready to go. I just got to install the front, the two front lines that go to each wheel, and then the flex lines that go to the calipers. All right, let's do this. Here we are on the passenger side. I got the stainless steel braided line in, and that is actually vinyl coated. You can't tell that in the video, but it is. So that's kind of nice there. You see this line right here? See how much I had to bend that? Because that's how they come. You get two lines just like that. So just because this is a pre-bent line kit does not mean you will have no issues installing it. My suggestion, if you do get a pre-bent hardline kit from CPP or any other brand, I highly suggest you get a tubing bender, because you're probably going to need it. I needed mine for sure. Because I tell you what, you take this line kit for this truck and you have 10 different people install it, 10 different people are going to install it differently. There's going to be a line slightly off one way or the other, and some people may not have to do what I did. Others may not have as much of an issue as I did, but it's not that big a deal. It's just I had to bend it quite a bit, and it was in a bind trying to get it all lined up. So, but it's all in there, it's working now. So let's just do the other side, and I'll probably time lapse through it. Probably I may have to bend this one as well, so let's see how that goes. Alright guys, this side went on much easier. I didn't really have to need my tubing bender for this line. I did have to put a slight bend to it, but I was able to do that by hand. Got the new stainless steel line. Make sure when you install this stuff that you go full steering, and make sure it's not hitting a control arm or anything. I'll probably have to readjust all this once it's on the ground at that point in time, but yeah, just make sure there's no kinks, no binds, especially when you're turning in towards the hose. So yeah, this side went in much easier. So all the lines are tight, everything's in, so really this thing's ready to start bleeding the brakes. I don't know if I'm going to film that part, because I'm going to have to use my wife, and I'll probably do that tomorrow morning first thing. So I'm going to go ahead and finish finish up in here. I got to put the shocks back in it. I just took those out because it gives you a better view, plus it's easier to work without having the shock absorber right here. Clean everything up. Remember, I want to take these bolts back out to hold the caliper brackets and put a little Loctite on them, and then tighten them down really good. So other than that, it looks really good. All right, real quick, I wanted to show y'all. I went ahead and drilled a 1/4-inch hole right here on the driver's side part of the frame, because these lines were touching this control arm. So once I got this little clamp here, secured it, now everything's really nice and out of the way. Nothing's hitting it, so that turned out really nice. All right, I'm gonna finish up here. All right, guys, got pretty much everything wrapped up. Made sure I checked all my fittings, make sure they were nice and snug, make sure the master cylinder is full of fluid. Went ahead and tightened up those caliper bolts like I was mentioning earlier, put some Loctite on it, replaced that tie rod end that I damaged, try to remove it. Got everything cleaned up, went ahead and greased everything while I was in there, because the wheel's off, it's in the air, it's a lot easier to access those grease fittings while I'm in there. Tomorrow morning I'm going to go ahead and bleed the brakes. Real quick, if you've never bled brakes on a vehicle and you've opened up the system like this, you always want to start out with bleeding the furthest wheel away from the master cylinder. So in this case, pretty much any vehicle, it's going to be the passenger rear wheel, and then once you get the air out of that side, then you'll move to the driver's side, then you'll move to the passenger front, and then you'll move to the driver front. And you want to do all that until you get all the air out. And if you want to do a second go around just to make sure, that's fine too. It's the messiest method to do the buddy system, but it's the only thing I have right now, so that's how I'm going to do it. It's Friday, guys. Have myself a beer. I took a bunch of photos, different angles and stuff, so I'm going to upload all those photos at the end of this video. But for now, I'm pretty much done. If I run into any issues with bleeding the brakes or anything of that matter, I'll go ahead and shoot footage of that and either show you what I'm dealing with or just explain it. It just depends on what the scenario may be. And I may go ahead and post another video of driving it, just to kind of give you my opinions on how the pedal feels, how it stops, stuff of that nature. So outside of those two lines going to the master cylinder, because like I showed you at the very beginning, I believe they pre-bent those lines for a master cylinder and brake booster assembly. Outside of that little scenario, everything installed really easily. Even the pre-bent lines on the bottom was not that bad. You always have to make tweaks and adjustments to that stuff, so don't get frustrated. Like I said earlier, make sure you get a tubing bender even though you're getting pre-bent lines, because you never know, you may have to tweak something, adjust something to fit your needs. So if you do go with the setup like I did on the just a manual brake system, no booster, and you get this line kit, you will have to adjust and modify your lines going to the master cylinder and proportioning valve. So not that big a deal. Set me back $30 to have it done. Kind of frustrating, but it is what it is. So I'm pretty much going to call it on this one. Like I said, if there's any issues, I'll shoot some footage. But until then, thanks for watching.